So the basic concept of the time door was to take a classic science fiction trope and give it a modern twist. So the story essentially begins when a team of explorers is marooned on Mars because the government ran out of money and no longer wanted to or felt able to fund their mission. And that's a lot more mundane than the typical reasons you would see for an abandoned space colony. A lot more mundane than aliens or space plague or an interplanetary war. But as I got down into the economic collapse that would cause a decision like that, I found that it was, quite as terrible a problem as the more exciting reason, and a lot more relatable too. I would like to go up on a spaceship if it was a trip to the moon, a couple orbits around the Earth. If it was actually, leaving the Earth, traveling millions of miles in the cold void of space, I would have to say no to that. So, a long time ago, I joined the Christian Science Fiction and Fantasy blog tour. It's no longer running, but back when I joined, it was a very active blog tour that was specifically devoted to Christian speculative fiction. And so I was interacting then with the woman who ran the blog tour. Um, Her name was Rebecca Llewellyn Miller. And she was also working with Stephen Burnett at that time to start Speculative Faith. And due to our interactions over the blog tour, she asked me if I would like to join Speculative Faith as a contributor. And I did. I was quite happy to get that invitation. And while I was doing that, Stephen Burnett organized Lorehaven. And so, again, already being involved in speculative faith, um, I joined that. I joined Lorehaven as well. So it was really just going from one to the other with the people that I met there. Probably reading. Um, Aside from that, another one would actually be collecting Funko Pops. I do have a Funko Pop collection, and that is definitely one of my hobbies. I don't remember particular moments where faith played a big part in the writing process. For me, faith really comes in a lot more during the publication process, because ultimately, what happens um, with the book, whether it's published, when it's published, how it's received, is not up to the agent or the editor or the audience. It really is up to God. And, finding that faith, to trust Him in whatever happens, uh, can be a challenge, especially when you know so clearly what you want. Most of the research that I did was centered around Mars, and I would have to say that what stuck with me most about that was the fact that Martian skies look different than ours. So the typical color of a Martian sky would be yellow brown or perhaps pinkish, and it would only be blue around sunset. So that difference always stayed with me. My favorite genre as a child was definitely mystery. I read a lot of Nancy Drew, a lot of Hardy Boys. I followed the Mandy series pretty closely, and now I hardly ever read mystery. It's my favorite genre has definitely changed to science fiction and fantasy with um, some classic literature mixed in. So, Reuben Jackson's favorite classic work of literature would be probably The Pickwick Papers or David Copperfield. Definitely something by Charles Dickens that is a little more lighthearted than a lot of other classics, and the concern for justice and the sentiment would also appeal to him. Whenever I'm stuck on the writing process, I always find it helpful to just step back and, ask questions about where the story is and, where I'm trying to go with it. Sometimes, I've run down a rabbit trail, or I'm trying to take things in a direction that isn't logical or natural to who the characters are or what situation they find themselves in. And by stepping back and thinking through that, I can normally find the place where I need to adjust and go in a different direction. My fuel would normally be coffee, occasionally tea, not so much for the caffeine, but just making a cup of tea, making a cup of coffee, and then settling down to my computer, to my notebook with that helps me to get into the right mental frame of just settling down to this and concentrating on it. When I started the Time Door, I really felt that there was an element of a disaster story in it. I had these um, four individuals marooned on Mars, really in a lot of danger just from the planet and the environment. And I found that writing that sort of conflict, where there's no villain, there are just these natural forces that are not conscious but still antagonistic. I actually found that a challenge to work with. So many of the characters in the Time Door are not are not telling the truth. Not that they are lying, usually, but they're not very open either with each other. Sometimes due to a lack of trust, sometimes a sense of shame, and over the course of the story, um, bringing them to a point where they were, willing to tell that truth that they had not wanted other people to know. This is who I am, this is what I've done. That was a very satisfying for me to write.